and welcome back to another video. Today going to be taking a look at Hong Kong Island here on Google Earth. So obviously it's been announced as the Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown map. We are going to have Hong Kong Island. So it's not what many people expected or predicted, and it's going to probably be smaller than previous games. I'm hoping this records okay because I'm using Google Earth and recording on my laptop, which it is struggling with, so hopefully it's not going to be too laggy. But anyway, we're going to be playing about here on Google Earth, taking a look at some of the interesting parts of the island. But yeah, obviously I think it could work well. It fits the rich lifestyle kind of vibe of TDU games of the past, so yeah, it could be a very interesting map. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to stick to the Hong Kong Island. Obviously in the interview after the trailer they said Hong Kong rather than Hong Kong Island, so there is a possibility it could be more than just the island. For example, the container yard shown in the trailer isn't on the island, it's actually over here somewhere in Hong Kong. I think it's up here. So yeah, there is a possibility it's not just the island, and obviously the island's smaller than previous games, so it is possible. It's very possible. There were several things in the trailer that would lead us to think it's more than just the island. But anyway, for the purposes of this video, we're going to just be looking at the island because that is the only bit that has been kind of officially confirmed, if you like. So we don't actually know if it's more than that or not. It could be, it might not be. I'm not quite certain either way at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, we're going to focus just on the island for today. So, the first bit I'm going to look at is the location of the Solar Hotel. Obviously, fictional building, it's not in the real map, but we could see from the image, which was sort of taken from this angle, that it is going to sit here, somewhere in Victoria Park, somewhere in this sort of open space here. So that's where our Solar Hotel's going to be, so just off the main highway which runs down the coast there. So that's going to be the location of our hotel, just off the East Corridor, which is the main road. So there's this huge urban part sort of along, this is the north coast of the island. And hopefully the Solar Hotel here is not the only house. It was seen in an image, another Solar Hotel, which was sort of in another location. But whether that's just for promotional images, we don't know. But there's plenty of interesting tall buildings here, and some over on the other side of the island, some sort of in the mountains and stuff, but they're all kind of apartment buildings, but hopefully there is more than one purchasable house or apartment or hotel apartment or whatever it is. So hopefully it's not just the Solar Hotel, but yeah, that is your location somewhere in this park. So the next thing we're going to look at is some of these small islands that aren't on Hong Kong Island, but are kind of part of it. So they're not on the mainland, but they're kind of here and not necessarily connected. So in previous games, we had what was called Eden Island, which you could travel to, I believe, on TDU1 and via a mod on TDU2. But it was a tiny little island with a road that ran the perimeter. Obviously this one doesn't, but they're game developers. They can use their creative license and sort of build a road on it that's fictional. This isn't the only island like this. There are more sort of at the other end, I believe. So any of these sort of islands could become the new Eden Island, which it used to be called because that was the name of the developer. But Green Island or something could make quite an interesting substitute for that, if we find it again down here. So yeah, that could be quite interesting. That was quite an interesting element to the previous games. But yeah, a round island with nothing on it could make a very interesting replacement for that. So we move next down to the Harbour Front, which is quite an interesting sort of area anyway. But for those of you who don't know, there is a Formula E race which is run on Hong Kong Island, which, going by the map, sort of goes, I'm not completely sure where the start line is. I think it's actually up here. Hang on, so we'll start. So it basically goes down this road, and at some point turns and goes back the other way. It then comes down this way, and sort of, there's a little corner here, then we go round this roundabout, round this little loop, off this way, and what looks like sort of round here and back round again. So although it's not a circuit, like a closed off circuit in the game, probably because it's part of the road network, so we want to be able to drive it, it will be quite interesting being able to do laps of basically a Formula E circuit in the game. I believe that's the right layout. I'm not too familiar with it myself, but yeah, that's quite an interesting one. And I have to thank James for sending me across some overhead images of that, as well as showing me some of the islands off the coast, and reminding me about Eden Island, because yeah, that'd be quite interesting. But yeah, it would be kind of cool if we could race the layout, and I would be it would be a missed opportunity if that wasn't one of the races in the game. So yeah, that's kind of a cool thing, and with the Ferris wheel here and the Harbour Front as a backdrop, that could be a very cool little route to race around. I'll certainly be driving around that, assuming they add the roads in a realistic 1-to-1 scale fashion like they usually do, which hopefully they will. So if we zoom out slightly from the Formula E circuit, we can see there is actually a huge urban area here, and I'm slightly concerned about this because we're kind of all around the coast. It's bigger down this north side, but all around the coast, apart from up here, is quite heavily built up. So I'm slightly concerned we're going to end up with massive urban areas and not much greenery, because you can't drive much of this. It's kind of mountains. There's a couple of passes, but I guess that's kind of similar to the Hawaiian island we had in the first two games, but kind of more exaggerated how much built up areas there are. And if we do indeed travel across to Hong Kong, we've got more of the same. So that's slightly concerning, but hopefully they pull it off. I mean, there could be some cool street races around here, and as long as we have some mountainous roads between, which we will get to in a minute, there are some quite interesting roads on this island, then it could still be an excellent map. So I'm going to next have a quick look at some of the sort of public transport networks which are on Hong Kong Island. I know, not that relevant for a racing game, but if you think Forza has its train and its tram, and one thing we all love doing is racing two forms of transport against each other. On the Crew 2, for example, racing a plane against a car against a boat. So the first thing we have is this tram line, which isn't very visible here, but this line up here is a mountain tram which sort of goes up this way. So that could be quite an interesting race to the peak. I'm not quite sure if there's a road, but I mean, there's this built-up area up here, so there must be some kind of road that follows up to Victoria Peak. And, well, you'd hope you could drive up there, because that probably is one of, if not the highest peak on the island, which you'd want to get to have a view down over the city. So that could be quite interesting to race against that tram. The other thing we have is a railway line, which I believe actually comes over in the same tunnel as the road from mainland Hong Kong. And it sort of runs here. I think this is the station, this big building, not the skyscraper, but behind it, this sort of big flat building is the first station, but it runs all the way along here. It sort of follows this coastal motorway. A lot of it underground or hidden or hard to see in Google Earth, but it comes out here and then sort of carries on, and I think it eventually stops somewhere in amongst these buildings. It sort of comes in through here and ends here, or possibly goes into a tunnel or something. But that's another interesting little thing we could race against, so hopefully that train line with a running train would be included, which would obviously be something new for the Test Drive Unlimited franchise, but given games have moved on since the last two, so the Crew 2 and Forza both have trains or other forms of transport, so I think it would be a missed opportunity if none of these ran, because we all love racing a car against a train or another form of transport. Hopefully with the car winning is probably the side we're all on. But yeah, those could be some interesting elements, which I don't think many people have really spoken about with this map. Another thing I'm going to quickly touch upon is these sort of forts and temples and things in amongst the scenery, which are just cool sort of historical elements to the map, which hopefully will be included and hopefully we can drive up to. But if it's anything like TDU2 or the first, either TDU game in fact, we should be able to drive anywhere, even if there isn't a road, so that's where some of these off-roaders might come into their own, sort of driving up these mountains. Might be quite tough going, but hopefully we can access all of these interesting areas. So there are actually a few dirt roads, if I can find any, that are in the centre of the island. But as you might expect, there's sort of some smaller dirt roads that go up there. I'm not sure if that is actually a road. And some nice twisty mountain roads, which hopefully we can find. But yeah, that go sort of up to some of these buildings. And there are little dirt trails and tracks. So in TDU, well, 1 and 2, we had some tracks that sort of ran the top of the mountains. So usually along the peak there is a sort of track. And if there isn't, hopefully they will use their sort of creative license to put some tracks in where maybe there aren't any, just to sort of improve the gameplay experience whilst trying to keep it obviously as accurate as possible. But here and there, sometimes it is worth changing things. Same with the city. If they were to thin out some of these roads, I wouldn't really mind, as long as it feels close to the island. It doesn't have to be an exact replica. But yeah, like I say, very like the whatever the map was called, the Hawaiian map anyway, where we've sort of got city and roads around the outside and then mountains in the middle with a few dirt roads, but not massive. Not masses. What have I done? Zoomed right out. Anyway. So another interesting, well, thing we haven't looked at is some of the beaches. Obviously there are some fabulous beaches here, like this one off the golf course. That's probably quite a nice one. We've got a sort of resort here, so maybe that's a purchasable house or somewhere we can meet up with our friends. So that'd be kind of interesting. And we have somewhere around this way an area you might... Where is it? I did find this earlier, an area you might recognise from the trailer. Ah, it's in here. So the Tai Tam Harbour, it's called. So this sort of beach area here, I believe, is where we saw the G-Wagon and the Porsche racing around in the trailer, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, you can see the sort of boats and stuff, the view we had from there. So not only is there this sort of, well, I think it's a school in real life actually, but there's some cool buildings in here that could potentially be converted into an apartment, because that would be a pretty cool view down there in game. So that would be kind of cool. But we've also got this dam behind here. So obviously we've got the dam in Forza, which is smaller than this one, but that's always a cool thing to have in the background. And I mean, look at that view up there. Oh, so if we were to, obviously there's a road that goes over here, so we should be able to drive across this, get some cool photos and stuff. But yeah, this is a cool little area with this sort of beach down here, the dam here, the reservoir, and all the mountains obviously. So yeah, we know that's going to be somewhere in there because it was in the trailer, although having said that, some of the ports and things aren't on Hong Kong Island that were in the trailer, so maybe that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, that's why people think it's more than just the island. But at the moment I'm kind of 50-50, I'm not either way. But yeah, this is a cool little area. And there are many other beaches and things like this around the island, some nice areas. Somewhere up here there is some, it's like a satellite array I think as well. You can't really see it because it's sort of flattened on the picture, but these are sort of a satellite array thing up on this area which isn't built up, so that's a cool sort of empty area to explore. Maybe some of the wrecked vehicles would be hidden in sort of locations like this, right at the edge of the island. I can kind of imagine one being up there, assuming they're going to add that sort of thing again. And we've got some cool buildings along here, which again could be a nice location for some apartments. I really hope there are some apartments and houses, because like I say, there's some really cool locations they could hide them away, sort of up the mountains and stuff with really spectacular views. So I really hope they don't miss an opportunity and not put that sort of thing in the game. Another thing a lot of people love in car games are tunnels, because obviously we all want to drop the car down a few gears and hear it bouncing off the tunnel walls. So there are these two tunnels that run sort of through here on Hong Kong Island, and if Hong Kong is included, there are some tunnels that run across to there as well. So some nice decent length tunnels to drive our cars through is always a lot of fun to mess about with, so it's something again that's sort of needed in a racing game, so it's got those as well. But yeah, we've kind of got everything. We've got, well, the hotel hopefully is a hint towards houses. We've got the city area, we've got the mountainous area, we've got effectively a racing track, even though it's just a street circuit, admittedly. We've got some nice streets to sort of race in and out of. We've got public transport to race against. We've got tunnels. We've got a dam. We've got beaches. We've got high points to kind of come up to and view from. We've got a satellite array, which we always seem to have that sort of thing, whether it's that or turbines or something, those sort of things there. So yeah, it could be quite an interesting and varied map, even if it is just Hong Kong Island. Admittedly, there's a little bit too much urban areas, I think, in comparison to greenery, but I guess with a smaller island, basically with any island, you get build up around the coast and not in the middle where the mountains are. But with it being a smaller island, I guess that means it just takes up slightly more of the space. It could be even more interesting if they do indeed include some of Hong Kong and some of this sort of area, which there are sort of hints towards, possibly in the trailer. At the moment, I'm kind of 50-50 whether I believe it's going to be more than the island or not. Yes, there's some evidence to point towards it, but it doesn't necessarily make 100% sense, so we'll have to wait and see. But even if it is just Hong Kong Island, I think it will be a fantastic map. If they pull it off right, obviously it's a one-to-one replica, so it should be pretty much as it is. But it would be cool if they added some other bits, and even if mainland Hong Kong isn't included, we have got some other islands. We've got this sort of bit down here, which is kind of connected with a bridge, so that's probably really part of Hong Kong Island, so that would be cool. We've got Middle Island down here, so there are a few sort of other areas that could be added, and this bit that sort of sticks out down this way. But yeah, even if it is just literally the island and none of these bits coming off it, I wouldn't mind. I would be kind of surprised if this lot was included, but like I say, there were some hints to it, so we shall wait and see. But anyway, do let me know what you think of Hong Kong as a location, or Hong Kong Island as a location. Do you think it's varied enough, got enough different areas, and are there any other interesting bits of the map you think I've missed? But yeah, very much look forward to seeing what they do with this, and obviously, as always, look forward to hearing more news about the upcoming test drive game. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to driving some of the roads here on Hong Kong Island. But yeah, that is going to be all for today's video, probably. Taking a look at Hong Kong Island, sort of in-depth look at Hong Kong Island, which is going to be our map for Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. So very much looking forward to this. Obviously, very different to the Mexico map we're going to be getting for Horizon 5, so that's quite exciting as well. Obviously, Horizon 5 this year and then this next year, but two very different, very interesting locations, both of which fit their respective games quite well, I think. Mexico fits Forza for being a nice, diverse sort of sandbox to play about in, and this fits the rich lifestyle of Test Drive. But anyway, yeah, very much looking forward to hearing more, but that is going to be all for today's video, taking a look at Hong Kong Island. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.